Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Everyone welcome. Surah Ra'd, chapter 13, verses 18 to 24 will be covered today. These are the references, and this is our contact number for any query or question. Recap some salient points from previous presentations. The creation of man and the universe has a purpose, and we need to figure this out following the guidance of the Quran. There are enough signs in the outer world and within our individual psyche which points to the need for an external source of guidance, i.e. Wahi of Allah. It is part of the change which occurs in our psyche due to Eimaan that we wish to share the message of the Quran with others. The Quran brings into our focus both the needs of the physical body as well as of the human self. So in Quran, as we know that throughout the Quran, we have to keep in mind our own self as well as the needs of our body. Allah does not change the state of any nation until they change what is within their own psyche. This places the initiative in the hands of human beings. The focus of the Quran is on changing our inner self, because that is where the change will bring the change in the outer world. The first realization of this aspect takes birth within us when we recognize the wrongs associated with the man-device system, i.e. a world created by the human intellect without the guidance of Wahi. So if we look at the world around us, then naturally questions arise in our mind that why this world is the way it is. So this is where the Quran helps us to look at it by giving us both pictures and says that if human intellect alone creates a world, this is how the world will look like. And if the human intellect follows the permanent values of the Quran, then the world will change into the world which is projected by the Quran as a system of deen. In the human world, there is a continuous tussle between haq and batil, and this is never going to end. So this thing we should keep it in mind that haq and batil, the fight between the two is not going to come to an end. It is possible that batil can over-dominate overwhelmingly at some point in time, like in today's world, but haq is always there. If haq is in the heart of one individual on this planet, even then there is a tussle going on between haq and batil. Hence, those who accept the guidance of the Quran need to understand that they have to play a central role on the side of haq to ensure that what is good for mankind should emerge in the world as quickly as possible. So we should not give up just thinking that batil is too much in the world and how can I fight against it. But the Quran here says that change your psyche and bring it in line with haq. Bring it in line with haq, and you will see the change will start taking place in the outer world. The human self's development does not follow our desires functioning outside the light of Wahi. If we wish to benefit our self-development, then we have to follow the recipe of the Quran, and which is Eimaan and Amal Saleh. We have gone through this aspect many times before. Now, we'll go to the first verse for our presentation today. Human life is a serious business. لِلَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمُ الْحُسْنَى وَالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَهُ لَوْ أَنَّ لَهُم مَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ لَافْتَدَوْا بِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْحِسَابِ وَمَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمُ وَبِئْسَ الْمِهَادُ. In this way, Allah makes things clear by example for those people who say welcome in an extremely balanced way to the invitation of Allah, that is Mu'mineen, so that they come to know what kind of confrontation there will be with the destructive forces against the message which they have risen up with, and how victory will ultimately belong to haq. Next is, as far as those people are concerned who do not welcome and accept this invitation, instead oppose it, say to them that according to the law of Allah, their destruction is a certainty. Today they have an opportunity by accepting this invitation to save themselves from destruction. But if they do not do this, and if the time of manifestation of consequences arrives, then at that time, if it happens that they have the wealth of all the world, and together with that, they have an equal amount of wealth gathered with them, and they desire that by offering all this wealth, they can save themselves from this annihilation, then this can never happen. It's a beautiful example given here by the Quran that people think who are on the wrong path, who are following batil, that by accumulating wealth, they are more or less have become eternal. The Quran over here says that no, it is not, it is never going to happen. Haqq will overwhelm Batil at some point in time, and their wealth will be of no use. In any case, we all are going to die and leave all wealth behind, but that's not the point here. The point is in terms of application to our world where we are living. And this is taking place right in front of our eyes. At that juncture, the accountability of their deeds will be very severe against them, and their abode will be a hell of destructions, and it is indeed a very dreadful destination. Further reflections on verse 13-18. Since the guidance of the Quran is for those who make a deliberate choice to follow its values and to manifest the divine attributes with a view to benefit from this life and to qualify for the life of the hereafter. Therefore, the Quran here addresses them about the state of those who refuse to come to the message of Wahi when they are invited to this. Firstly, it tells us that we have a finite time in this life, and this aspect is evidently clear from the aging process of our physical body and our imminent death. So we should keep it in mind all the time. And since we have come to the Quran and we have Eimaan, so we should keep it in mind that our existence, our life in this world is finite. Since we have a limited time available to us, hence we should try to get the maximum from this life as guided by Wahi in detail. Secondly, not to be distracted by the outlook of those who do not wish to take their life seriously and ignore the existence and functioning of the law of requital. Here the Quran has pointed to an important aspect of the human psyche, where those who are rich think that their wealth will solve all their problems as they are oblivious of the presence of their self. The same wealth which they have accumulated has prevented them from thinking of any higher purpose of life and is degrading their self with the passage of time. The Quran terms it as blindness. This accumulation of wealth is a terrible, inverted commas, disease, a psychological problem to which Quran points our attention and says, that is why it says, Atal Mala Allah Hubbehi, and invites us to give it away. Even in a capitalist system, if it accumulates, try to share it with others, because that is how our self develops. By concluding the verse with وَمَاوَهُمْ جَهَنَّمُ وَبِئْسَ الْمِهَادُ, Jahannam means their life becomes static and loses any ability to move ahead. They contribute to problems faced by humanity by hindering the path of Haqq, and hence as a consequence their abode is a place where they will live, but with no potential to ascend on further evolutionary stages. So this is something which we need to keep it in mind and observe what is going on around us, that the world at this point in time actually is rapidly changing. And there's a strong tussle going on between haves and have-nots, and between nations who are weaker against those who have subjugated them. Verse 13, 19 to 21, significance of making a covenant with Allah. These are interesting verses. Afaman ya'lamu annama unzila alayka min rabbika al-haqqu kaman huwa ama innama yatazakkaru ulul albab. Just think that there is one individual who has conviction that whatever has been sent to you from your Rabb is Haqq, and the other one is he who is completely blind regarding this reality. Can these two ever be equal? We know Quran continuously compares the two individuals, the one who is using the light of the Quran and the one who refuses to use its light. But from these examples, reality can only be visible to those people who make use of intellect and wisdom. Next is Allazina yufuna bi ahdillahi wa la yanquduna al-mithaq. That which functions according to emotions and shows the paths of individual vested interests is not intellect and wisdom. Rather, it is that which the intellect and vision of those people who fulfill the commitment which they have made with Allah, and they never break their covenant. The next one is Wallazina yasiluna ma amarallahu bihi an yusala wa yakshawna rabbahum wa yakhafuna su'al hisab. Those who join together these broken connections of humanity, which Allah had commanded to be joined, because they are fearful that if this is not done, then its consequences will be destruction and ruin. So over here, a number of issues have been mentioned over here, particularly the Ahdillahi, and al-mithaq, that some kind of a commitment we are making with Allah. And let's go into more details of this. Two aspects of making commitment in the cause of Allah. Now, I've quoted over here one verse, Afaman wa adnahu wadan hasanan, fahuwa la akihe kaman matanahu matal hayati dunya summa huwa yawmal qiyamati minal muhdarin. The matter is very clear. One category is that with whom we have promised, and this promise of ours is going to become a reality in front of them. They will receive the prosperities and successes of the world and also eminences of the life of the hereafter. The second category is of those who will receive the means of sustenance of this world, but in the life of the hereafter, they as criminals will be presented in our court. Just think who is better off among these two categories. Next is a verse which we have gone through a few times before as well. Wa'adallahu allazina amanu minkum wa amilus salihati la yastakhlifannahum fil ardi kama stakhlaful lazina min qablihim wa la yumakkinanna lahum dinuhum allazi artada lahum. I've only partially quoted this verse. Is quite a long verse and there are a number of issues discussed. Over here, what Quran says is what will be achieved by obeying these laws. That what will we get? Why should we have Eimaan and do Saleh deeds? And why should we come together and do these together? We have promised to these people who have conviction in the truth of these laws and carry out Saleh deeds according to this defined program that we will bestow on them power in the land and their rule will turn this planet Earth into paradise. This is our eternal law according to which we had bestowed this kind of power on nations of the past and will strengthen their system of life which we have approved for them. Making a commitment on this path is not something which Allah or the Quran says is taken lightly. It may not appear as if it is making any progress, but it does. What it means to make a covenant with Allah. Inna Allah ashtara minal mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum bi anna Allahumul jannata. I've taken this verse from Surah Tawbah. This is the state of munafiqeen. Contrary to this, before that, the munafiqeen are being discussed. The Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen is that who have a supreme agreement with the system of Allah. According to this agreement, the divine system purchases their life and possessions and in return gives them assurance of a life of Jannah, i.e. the provision of all means of sustenance in this worldly life and availability of all resources and means for the growth of their potentials become the responsibility of this system. So we know it that progressively from individuals to coming together and then we head towards establishing the system of Deen. And once we are nearing that, of course, we need resources and we need the means of sustenance. And the Quran is inviting us over here that you should come together and put your all efforts together, all physical as well as non-physical. Now, there is another verse of Surah Tawbah, قُلْ إِنْ كَانَ آبَاؤُكُمْ وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ وَإِخْوَانُكُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُكُمْ وَعَشِيرَاتُكُمْ وَأَمْوَالٌ اقْتَرَفْتُمُوهَا وَتِجَارَةٌ تَخْشَوْنَ كَسَادَهَا وَمَسَاكِنُ تَرْضَوْنَهَا أَحَبَّ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَجِهَادٍ فِي سَبِيلِهِ فَتَرَبَّصُوا حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ اللَّهُ بِأَمْرِهِ وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْفَاسِقِينَ. Over here, Quran says that once the system is now taking place, your priorities, in fact, should have changed by now. O Rasool, say to these people that if your fathers, sons, brothers, wives, and other relations, and wealth and possessions which you earn, and that commerce about the loss of which you fear, and those dwellings which you adore so much, if any of these things is dearer to you than the striving in the path of Allah and His Messenger, then wait for the consequences of following this path until the time for the consequences to arrive according to the law of Allah. So then what people, if we do not follow this path, then gradually our deeds catch up with us and then the world of the environment of the society in which we live, we start facing those ill deeds and their effects. Remember, Allah never shows the path of success and prosperity to that nation which goes astray from abandoning the right path. And we can see this, what is happening around us, that if there are problems in some piece of land, wherever the powerful, they create problems, then it doesn't, everyone suffers. And in order to avoid that, Quran says that get your priorities right. Some reflections on these verses. First is coming to the Quran looking for guidance in our earthly life is the beginning of entering a covenant with Allah. It is that simple. I looked at it and I said, wait a minute, when we accept Eimaan, of course we accept it voluntarily. Nobody is forcing us to accept it because we were looking for guidance. We were not happy with the world around us and we want to change. And in that process, we come to the Quran and find exactly what we were looking for. So the moment we do that, we automatically enter into a covenant, enter into an agreement with Allah. We don't need to enter into anything in writing when we make a choice. After feeling the need to acquire Iman of the Quran, for example, just look at the verse 177, abandoning this unwritten covenant is equally easy. So nobody has forced us to take it on. La ikraha fi din, Quran has clearly stated that it is your internal change which will bring you onto this path. Just start ignoring the values of the Quran and leave the company of those who are on this path. It is a simple choice and our self will tell us that it has quitted the path of Allah. So it is our choice, and being conscious of this choice is also very important, so that there is no ikrah, there is no force on us, there is no compulsion on us, because that is where the self starts developing into that self which is required for the system of being. Once we have come together as a Jamaat of Mu'mineen, then we strengthen our resolve to be together and commit to Allah to bring our hearts together. Differences need to disappear and we grow beyond the default dissonance existing within our psyche. In fact, coming on to this path, we have gone through these points before as well, that dissonance, which we may not have experienced previously, we will be able to recognize it and we will see that gradually it will disappear. This is an important sign of the self's development. Commitment to Allah also means to participate in creative activity extending beyond the realm of this physical universe into the life of the hereafter. Any thoughts about leaving or any weakening of this resolve leads to failing to get the best out of this life and may even lead to wastage of all our efforts in this life, i.e., not being able to acquire that self which deserves the companionship of Allah. Understanding all aspects of this covenant from the Quran helps us to come to grips with the unity of mankind as one big brotherhood as far as this world is concerned. Quran tells us that mankind at a physical level is one big brotherhood and they all have a self. And it is the responsibility of those who have come on Sirat al-Mustaqim that they should inform others as well, that there is a better way to live this life rather than the world which we have created based on sole human intellect without the light of Wahi. Only Wahi of Allah can help us to comprehend the whole reality of human creation and its higher purpose. Without making this commitment to the cause of Allah, we only see a tiny part of the whole reality, and hence cannot fully appreciate the existence of other potentials within us, which only come out through the manifestation of the divine attributes. A lot is within us which is coming out gradually as we are treading on this path. And this is amazing, because if we look back, we will see that where we were and where we are now. And as we go on this path, our self becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, and we know it is becoming stronger. Now, verse 13:22, covenant leading to higher consciousness. وَالَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِمْ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَنفَقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيَةً وَيَدْرَءُونَ بِالْحَسَنَاتِ السَّيِّئَاتِ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عُقْبَى الدَّارِ. Those who, for the achievement of this supreme objective, which their Rabb has defined for them, remain persistently active with strength and fortitude and shape the system of Salat, and whatever means of nourishment are provided to them, whether these are latent potentials or tangible means of sustenance, they use it for the welfare of mankind according to need, secretly or openly, and in this way remove the imbalances of the society through their balanced conduct. These are those people whose end is extremely pleasant. Now we will look at our efforts lead towards achieving our goal after Iman. الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله ثم لا يتبعون ما أنفقوا منا ولا أذلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. I've highlighted some of the important parts of this verse which we need to look at more closely. The people who, for the establishment of the divine system, which is the guarantor of the welfare and good of mankind, يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, keep their earnings available, and after that they do not even think about this, that they did any ihsan on others. So this is important part of our psyche, that when we are, who are the beneficiaries of the capitalist system, when we share it with others, we should realize that what has accumulated extra with us is because of the wrong system around us, because of the absence of deen in the world. And these are the points to which Quran is drawing our attention. These are verses which are dealing with the transitionary period during which we are developing ourselves and are making an effort towards a system of deen. Nor do they become a trouble for anyone due to this. These are the people for whom the reward of their efforts and sacrifices appears in the form of the establishment of that system. They neither have any external fear nor have any inner dissonance or anxiety and concern about not fulfilling their deeds. And this is important because when Quran says, وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ, in a non-deen system, khawf and huzn cannot go away. But we can understand the psyche working behind that who is creating this khawf, who is creating this huzn in this world. And we can look at this verse 238, if you remember right at the beginning where there is an exchange taking place with Malaika, and Allah has said that once you follow the guidance of the Wahi, you will not have any khawf and huzn. So that means that a man-made system will always have khawf and huzn. In fact, human beings who are in power, they want to create fear because through fear they control other human beings and enslave them. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ أَصَابَهَا وَابِلٌ فَآتَتْ أُكُلَهَا ضِعْفَيْنِ فَإِنْ لَمْ يُصْبِهَا وَابِلٌ فَتَلٌّ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. Contrary to this, the people who keep the outcome of their strivings available so that these could be employed according to the laws of Allah, and due to this nourishment of mankind, the strengthening and establishment of their self-occurs. So this is important because the Quran says that by following this pattern, which we are telling you, because you have made a commitment, you have entered into a covenant with Allah that you are going to follow this path. And if you have come to this path through Saleh deeds, through sharing your wealth and possessions and your abilities and potential with others, you are doing tasbeetam min anfusihim. Their example is like this, that an orchard is grown on highland so that a flood does not reach it. And if there is heavy rain, then it gives double produce. And if there is light rain, even then its produce is sufficient. Allah witnesses whatever you do. So Quran gives a lot of examples from agriculture and the farming and crops. Further reflections on verse 1322. The Quran has repeatedly put emphasis on acquiring Eimaan first and to then, as a consequence, carry out Saleh deeds. The question which can arise in our mind at the initial stages of our coming to the Quran is that how can this benefit us? Some people relate it to some increase in their own income despite knowing that the increase in their income is related to the wrong man-made system, for example, the capitalist system. These are the kind of thoughts which come to our mind at an initial stage. So I thought it is better to put it down here so that it is on record. What we call successes within the man-made system need to be viewed in the overall context of the Quranic invitation to establish the system of deen. Because if we start thinking that the success which we are getting under the capitalist system is somehow related to the blessings of Allah and His rahmat on us, then we are not going to go forward. Because human beings, they then stop. And that stoppage is wrong because we are attributing something which is non-Quranic. And that is the thing which we need to keep it in mind. If we discover that our motivation towards the system of deen has diminished, then we need to question our psyche using the Quranic light ASAP. Letting it continue unchallenged is fraught with risk, because then we will not benefit from the subsequent efforts which we have to make. Life is a continuous effort. It should never stop till the time we die. And whatever we can do, we should do it. If we are disabled, at least we can keep thinking. The overall direction of the Quran is to invite us to this fact that the social system, which is created by the unbridled human intellect, will always lead to imbalances in human society. If we are living in a society which is created by unbridled human intellect outside the light of Wahi, then we can't start associating some of the benefits we are getting as if this is some kind of a blessing from Allah. It is not. That is the point I'm trying to make over here. This will lead to the creation of economic losses within the system, which will create all kinds of injustices and crimes and will always create khawf and huzn. Allah pointed to this fact right at the start of Surah Al-Baqarah when the Malaika stated that Adam will shed blood and create fasads in the earth. Next is the emphasis of the Quran is to invite us to change the state of development of ourselves in the light of its permanent values, and this fulfills the purpose of our creation in this first stage of our life. Through Saleh deeds, we not only understand the problems created by fellow non-Quranic human beings, we also gradually learn the associated issues as well. For example, weaknesses of the system, face resistance from those who do not agree with the Quran, deal with the fear and huzn created by this system. By managing our own psyche and carrying out these good deeds, we learn to decide whether to disclose any information or not. If this is to be disclosed, then what will be the consequences? Learning self-control is an important acquired trait of our psyche where we avoid being impulsive and emotive. The Quran has put emphasis on sabr and sound. Next is verse 23-24, leading to unceasing rewards. Jannatu adnin yadkhulunaha wa man salaha min abaihim wa azwajihim wa zurriyatihim wal malaikatu yadkhuluna alayhim min kulli babin. Salamun alaykum bima sabartum fanema uqbaddar. These are the people for whom the end is very good in this abode, that is worldly life, i.e. paradisiacal society in which they will enter, they and also their parents, wives and children, provided their deeds are righteous, as a result of which they have qualified for this life. Next is, and they will have Malaika descending on them from all directions who will bring these glad tidings that for you there is every kind of peace and security. This is because you confronted difficulties with fortitude and resoluteness. Hence, look how pleasant is the conclusion of your life after this struggle. Quran doesn't leave Mu'mineen, Salihin and Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen without encouraging them and providing them motivation, because Quran talks about fact, and Allah knows that what is going to be the end of those who have come to this path and they have suffered as well in the path of Haqq. So our efforts cannot go wasted. So over here, Quran has pointed to a number of points that because we want to have our relations and others who have followed this path to be with us, then Quran has given that assurance, and we will expand on that. Eimaan together with Saleh deeds provides criterion for self-evaluation. Now over here I've quoted this verse, Qala ya Nuhu innahu laysa min ahlika innahu amalun ghayru salihin. Fala tas'alni ma laysa laka bihi ilmun. Inni aizuka an takuna minal jahilin. On this Allah said that, O Nuh, you did not understand the correct meaning of own. Undoubtedly he was your son, but not from your own. Only those can be from your own whose deeds are salih. If you remember, this is regarding Hazrat Nuh when the floods came, his own son who refused to accept Eimaan, he tried to climb high on the hills and tried to avoid getting drowned. And over here, Hazrat Nuh, he supplicated to Allah that maybe his son is saved. And Quran over here has told him that who is his own and who is not from his own family. And his deeds were non-salih. So deeds decide that where we belong. This is that criterion of own and others about which you did not know. And so you should not ask for this from me, of which you have no knowledge. Very stern warning for us that the relationships in this world are based on Eimaan and Saleh deeds. The biological relations have a very low importance in the book of Allah. And these biological deeds, in case these don't turn into Eimaan and Saleh deeds, that is, we do not become Mu'mineen within a family as well, then essentially that will decide that two paths will be quite different. And after death, there is no question that they will belong to different categories. So it is better that we should be conscious of it right in this world, and we should point it out to our family members who do not wish to come to Eimaan and Saleh deeds. I advise you about these things so that you know the facts. وَمَنْ يَأْتِهِ مُؤْمِنًا قَدْ عَمِلَ الصَّالِحَاتِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ دَرَجَاتُ الْأُولَى. And then Quran says, contrary to this, those people who with the invaluable entity of Iman and Saleh deeds will come to Allah, these are the very people who will have elevated ranks. So we know that it is our deeds, our Iman first, and then our deeds decide that where we are placed in terms of our self-development. And this is the point which we should keep it in mind. Jannatu adnin tajri min tahtiha al-anharu khalidina fiha wa zalika jazaa'u min tazakka. For their residents there will be such orchards whose bounties will never diminish. This is the recompense for the one who developed his self. So Quran has repeatedly throughout its pages has pointed to this fact that if we develop ourselves, then ourself will itself tell us, if we use the Quranic criteria, where exactly we are at any point in time. It is not something otherworldly that we will only find out in the hereafter. Right in this life, through our thoughts and through our deeds, we know where we are heading for and whether we are strengthening ourselves and how much strength we are getting from our deeds. Now, verses 23-24, few more points of interest. Desires through intellect lead us towards making choices in our life. A continuous tussle goes on within us during our life where we have to deal with our desires. Some we create ourselves while many just arise, and we keep becoming aware of these desires and deal with them according to our means and resources. Most people in the world act on their desires according to their own relative values and define their outcome as a success. If the outcomes are as expected, and if something goes wrong, they attribute it to bad luck. Some do refer to the law of cause and effect, but not to the law of requital as an immutable law. And we can observe it that people who haven't come to the Quran or who refuse to come to the Quran, their line of thinking is totally different from those who have come to the Quran. And we know that because of our own thought process, which has changed, that what is the distinction between the two? The Quran, being from Allah, recognizes this aspect of our psychological makeup and invites us to understand its significance in detail. This understanding is a prerequisite for the development of self for the system of deen. One of our desires is that our parents and close relations, friends with whom we live this life, should also be with us in the life of the hereafter. The Quran recognizes this wish of ours and for this provides guidance by stating that if you wish to be together, then make it clear to all who wish to be with you to follow the formula of Iman and Saleh deeds. And then on this basis, bring your hearts and minds together as noted in verse 303. If this takes place in this life, then it will become evidence of this fact that hearts so united will also stay together in the life of the hereafter. We have covered this point before as well, that if we want, and we should make it clear to our relations as well around us and friends, that if we all want to be together in the hereafter, then this world is a place where we should come together on the permanent values of the Quran and agree to accepting Iman and then doing Saleh deeds. It is not going to happen in the hereafter because we know that all this follows strict laws of Allah. This unity of hearts here in this life will give birth to a stronger relationship than biological affinity or any other kind of coming together, as this is based on living life within the limits defined by the permanent values. I've already said it, but we should keep it in mind and we should also make it clear to people around us. With differences removed and the emergence of a common aim towards the establishment of deen, this will become tangible evidence of Sirat al-Mustaqim. This is the supreme achievement in the book of Allah, and Quran calls it Zalikal Fawzul Azim. It is something we have achieved. The self that we acquire, nobody can take away that self because that self is ours. We made it. It is simple, even in human life over here in our world. If I have acquired a degree, that degree, the knowledge which I have gained becomes part of myself. Even if I lose that piece of paper, whatever qualification I have, I can manifest that traits of that qualification anytime because it becomes part of our memory. Finally, to remind ourselves, I've quoted a few verses here just to remind ourselves. لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. We have gone through this verse a number of times before. tell them that according to this program, we have sent this code of laws in which is concealed the secret of your own eminence and advancement. If you try to understand it by using your intellect and reasoning, then this reality will become evident to you that this code of laws is provided to bestow on you elevation and success. From this, there is no benefit to Allah. Whole of the Quran is for us. Wherever we should keep our mind not digressing anywhere that as if for something of benefit to Allah. No, He has created it. He has created us, and we have to fulfill or follow a certain path so that we go on to the next life, and also establish the system of deen over here so that mankind does not suffer, so that we carry out those responsibilities which Allah has clearly spelled out in the Quran for us, and we are supposed to deliver them, because it is through human hands Allah works in this life. So Kitaban fihi zikrukum, it is our own eminence. So the Quran is about us. And this thing we need to remind ourselves repeatedly. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشْرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَٰهُكُمْ إِلَٰهٌ وَاحِدٌ فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَاتِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. After saying all this, O Rasool, make this clear to them that all this is from Allah, not from me. Messenger of Allah has made it very clear that this is from Allah. And what is my position? I'm just a human being like you. I'm just a human being like you. Very important for us that Quran is for human beings. The only difference is that this wahi has come to me. So this wahi came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and now this wahi is saved, preserved in the Quran, and is completely available to us. That only Allah is sovereign and supreme in authority, and He's still supreme in authority as He was at that time. No one else is. Hence, whoever among you hopes to face the law of mukafat, and that is where the Quran says, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ, whoever thinks that there is an accountability and we are supposed to have the system of rububiyyat, what he should do is فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا. He should do such deeds which reform the world and become the means of the self-development, and only adopt obedience of the laws of his Rabb and not associate anyone else in this. Because if we associate, if we contaminate the message of the Quran, if we mix something from our own desires into the Quran, then we will lose the benefit of this formula. And this is what is going on across the world. People do follow some values here and there, even locally, but those are not going to give any benefit. It has to be, the recipe has to be used complete, and we should not do any shirk in it. And Quran has made it very clear, وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَاتِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا, that in its following, in the case of system of rububiyyat, we cannot mix up any other value system in the system of deen, in the system of rububiyyat. This is because shirk is contrary to human eminence and a gross injustice. Because through shirk, what happens is that we start compromising. We accept even slavery at times without knowing that we are being enslaved. We put extra chains on our head. And that is what prevents us from being useful to the system of deen. Bowing down before another human being is degradation of humanity. Very important, bowing down before another human being is degradation of humanity. And we should recognize the slavery of man-made system. Only the being of Allah is higher than man, and submission should only be to His laws. And with that, we come to the end of this presentation. Thanks for sparing time and joining us in sharing this.